If you are waiting to be ready to start your podcast, I've got some bad news for you because you're gonna be waiting forever. The amount of times that I hear people say they want to start a podcast and then a year later I might bump into them at a networking event and I'm like, hey, how did the podcast go? And they're like, I still haven't started. I'd love the stats on that must be pretty shocking because this is not something that we can just keep putting off. This is not something that can keep waiting, yet it happens so much. And it doesn't need to happen. Whether it's because you're like, oh, well, I need to be able to invest in the equipment, the worry of, oh, I just don't know how to do it. I don't have time to work it all out. And I just don't know what I do. This is for you. This is for you if you have been telling people you've been planning a podcast, thought about a podcast, got ideas for a podcast for the last 6 months, or even from before last year and you had it on this year's list to do and you haven't done it yet. Because by the end, you will understand that this whole idea of being ready, it's just an excuse. It's a myth. There's no such thing in this space. And I'm going to tell you how you can start anyway. We're going to get on to the point where you understand that this is just you getting in your own way for whatever reason. And we're going to get you thinking about how you can get started with a podcast. Now, the thing that I notice the most of people that say they want a podcast is they have this idea that the podcast needs to be brilliant before they start. That they need to have a studio, that they need to have the most high-end tech equipment to hand. And they need to know what to say. They need to be really good. They need to have some amazing guests. And they need that all to happen before they start their podcast. Now, the issue that then happens is that as a result of not having the budget, not having the knowledge, not feeling like you have the skill that you're good enough at it yet, all of that leads to the time delaying. That's what we're seeing in this whole concept of, it was on my vision board for the year and I still haven't done it. What? And how many times have you put it on your vision board? Because I know that some of you have not just had this on your vision board once. This has been on your vision board for a long time now. This is ongoing. So that then means that you're not going to be getting your message out there. You're not going to be offering anything for your audience to listen to. Yeah, you're putting content out there, but it's short. It's not deep enough. It's not allowing people to have those mindset changes that they need to make behavioural change, to actually do something different. And once they do one thing different as a result of something that you've said, they're going to end up wanting to know more. They're going to be like, oh my God, I did this and it changed my life. And now I need more from you. So you're missing out on all of the excitement and change and positive impact you can have by not having your podcast. But we get caught up in this idea that you have to be ready. The idea of being ready means that you feel ready, that it is perfect, that it's polished, that it's going to go perfectly well. And this ties in with everything that I say about podcasts. And this is why I don't want you to get in the charts with your first episode. I really don't get it. Unless you're a celebrity and you already have a level of influence or presence online, your podcast shouldn't do very much in the first episodes at all. I want you to be in single digit downloads, basically. Because the reality is if you're starting a podcast, this is not your forte, you are not media trained, this is your venture into it. Now, if you're working with myself, the most effective way to do a podcast to get yourself seen, establish yourself an expert, is to do a solo episode, is to host a solo podcast. That is the way to do it. So it is only you getting good at it. We're not relying on guests, but you need to get good at it. And the only way you're going to get good at it is by taking action. And that is really hard for people to get their heads round because they constantly think, well, all of this needs to happen first. I need to know how to do this. I need to make sure this is in place. No, that's not true. Because you didn't know how to drive a car before you got into the car. You could have read all the manuals, watched all the YouTube videos, but until you sat in the car, you didn't know how to use the car properly. You had the knowledge, but you didn't have the practical skill. And you kept getting in that car every week with your driving instructor to get better. You could carry out those maneuvers that you had to know. You knew how to use the gear stick, turn the car on, and maybe you vaguely knew how to point at the certain things in the engine just to get through that section. Don't think all of us know quite all of those bits, but it's fine. Then you passed your test, and you thought you knew how to drive, and then you were in your car for your first journey on your own without the driving instructor's feet hovering over the second set of pedals that they have, and suddenly you're learning how to drive. Even once you passed the test, you weren't learning how to drive until you were doing that in your car on your own. Podcasting is exactly the same, because if we keep putting this off, we're sat there reading the manual but never getting any road experience. And by doing that, we're losing any momentum that you have and excitement that you have for the podcast. We're delaying any growth that comes from having a podcast, developing your ideas, sharing them online. And the podcast is going to be a space where episode 1, you say something that by episode 52, you might not even agree with yourself. And you might pull that episode a year later and go, it doesn't align anymore. It's not right for me. But the podcast is the breathing space for those ideas. And for the longer time that you stay quiet, we're giving more time to other people coming along that are in your space and taking up that space. They're claiming it as theirs because there's a space, because there's a gap, because you're not there. You're like, oh, but I'm not ready to do it yet. I don't know the name of it. I don't know what the cover art should look like. So by not getting that out there, by not putting ourselves out there, it's not just our audience that aren't seeing us. It's other people that we could collaborate with. It's other people that might be able to provide sponsorship. And it's stopping your ideas from developing. I sit here and when I plan episodes, I get ideas for more episodes as a result of talking out loud. I'm writing something down and then I'll get one idea for a new title. I'm like, write that down. That could be the next one I record. Throw that in. No big deal. The podcast is this ground of creativity, of depth of idea. And it creates this snowball effect as things go on that you are developing what you're saying. You're bringing people on that journey. Your ideas are getting bigger and you're forming it all there. And you do that by your expression. So when you're mapping bits and pieces out, when you're deciding what your belief is around something, what your methodology is around something, whether something can work in certain episodes, it's all refinement. It's all putting it out there. And your very, very earliest episodes are your playground. They are your space for working out how you are on camera. Go back just a few episodes from here. Go back. It's all labelled up. Season 1's not labelled up per se, but season 2 is, so you'll be able to work out the difference. This show was called something different. Big Vision Business Owner is what it was called. I ended with, and keep changing the way the world thinks, one podcast at a time. Now we've gone for a rebrand because I felt more aligned with what it is. Ready to be Heard is here. And the sign-off I'm playing with. Sometimes I don't remember it because it's not fully in my mind just yet. We're getting there. I think I carried on with the initial one because it kind of still made sense. And I was like, no, it doesn't really work. I did it 2 episodes ago. Well, actually, it's only 1 episode for you. I did it in the last episode. When I ended, I said something. And it's funny, when I was preparing it, I'd seen it on an email sign-off. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. And then I went, what was my sign-off the other month when I was recording my June episodes? It was almost the same, but it had been different. And so I'd put it through ChatGPT and it came out with almost exactly the same thing. So I thought, okay, we're on the route to having this sign-off that's right. I weren't worried about getting it wrong a few times. And I got it wrong in the episode after this, which is going to be weird for you because I recorded it first, but you're hearing it second. So it's all a bit backwards in that regard. But the point is that you don't have to have it all right from the beginning. If you really want to research, go back and listen to The Single Spark. It used to be called The Single Girl's Guide to Life. The different things I call myself at the start of that when I introduce myself, the different ways that I phrase the show. The sign-off has always stayed the same, I think, or just about. It might not have had a sign-off to begin with. And then I developed and keep celebrating single life together. That was how it went. But the beginning, all kinds. No one cares. No one cares enough to make comment on this. No one is sat there listening to all of those things thinking, oh man, she's saying loads of different things. I think it's a bit weird. And if they are, then they're going to go and they're going to leave anyway. Cool, go, off you go. Generally, we're going to go, oh, cool, like this is someone that's a self-starter, that's done it herself, that's not perfected it, she's doing it, she's living that life where she just gets on with it and does it rather than stops herself from doing it and is there to share that. That's quite, I write that, it's relatability, it's not vulnerability, but it's real. Everyone raves and goes on about, oh, be authentic online. Oh, but God, I've got to perfect everything that puts out. God forbid you make a mistake. This is what we need. The reality of authenticity is to some degree being a bit real. Like, I'm not perfect at it. Oh my God, my show went out without show notes. That literally happened to me with episode 1 of this series. So, sometimes things happen and it doesn't have to be perfect. I tell you what, I didn't know what I was doing when I started the Single Girl's Guide to Life. But the fact that it got just after 2 years on to 100,000 downloads tells me I didn't need to know what I was doing at the start. What I did need to do was bloody start. Because if I hadn't started then, I might have missed that window of opportunity to get those downloads. And in my head, I know some of the women obviously listen to multiple episodes, but that's the potential for like 100,000 people's lives to be affected. As I say, it's a bit of an overestimate that, because I think people did used to binge it. So I mean, if there's 100 odd episodes, then divide it by 100 makes it seem less exciting that way. We won't do that so much. I don't think everyone listens to 100. That's a bit of a stretch, and that's the beauty of it as well. Like, yes, my first episode is the most listened to. I think that's because people like to go back to the beginning. I don't necessarily think it's because it's like the best title. I think people you can order on Spotify, can't you? It's a nice place to start, inverted commas. 8 Ways to Make the Most of Single Life maybe is a good title. I hadn't realised at the time, and I always recommend people start with something like that because it is very filled with value. Other than that, though, episodes 2, 3 and 4 have only just got the kind of numbers that you would expect of something that is 4 years old now, and it still gets listened to. I don't really track which ones are listened to week on week. But they're very different to what I was saying at the end. They're very different to how I say it, how I present on camera, how I am right now saying this to you with a very vague set of notes. Whereas my first episode was me having typed it all out, trying to kind of follow it but make it sound natural. Whereas now you get that natural. And that's what I need you to try. All you've got to do is find a way to get started with this. And it doesn't have to be full-blown launches. When I launched the Single Girl's Guide to Life, I didn't tell anyone. I did it on my birthday, was very quiet about it, got it online, got it on Spotify, got it on Apple Podcasts. That was it. There was not a single post social media-wise anywhere. I can't find anything about it until a couple of weeks later, where I decide, okay, like, it's had a couple of downloads, we're in the double digits overall, let's share it online. There was no big launch, there was no aim to get in the chart. What was me at my kitchen table in the corner, not there anymore, with my laptop open, just a little microphone plugged into the computer, no video at the time. What I regret. But you don't have to start with video either. You can just start with what you already have. And it starts with a trailer. We always need a trailer at episode 0 because you have to have something to go on in order to register on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you're doing a little spiel of, hello and welcome to name of show, I'm blah blah and I do this. Show's going to be starting on this and I can't wait to see you there. Lovely. Just get that recorded. Get that sorted. And then get your first episode done. As I usually say to people, 3 ways, 5 ways or 8 ways to make the most of or to do XYZ is a really nice way to start. 8's really cool because if you talk about each point for 2 minutes, that's a 15-minute episode, or for 3 minutes, it's a 25-minute episode. If you do 5 things, 2 minutes is only 10 minutes overall, so you probably want to aim for 3 minutes to get 15, plus an intro and an outro. And over time you get looser with it anyway. You're able to talk a little bit more, expand more naturally and not think so much into that. But all you need to do right now is come up with this minimum viable product. In your case, you got to come up with a minimum, oh gosh, my word. To come up with a minimum viable podcast. It doesn't need video. You can if you want, but don't add to the complexity of it. You can just start with a mic. One single mic plugged into your computer. Plugged into your phone, if so. And if the concept of putting your microphone and plugging it in and having it recording to software is too scary, then you just start with your phone on voice notes. iPhone is brilliant for this because if you start the recording, hit the lock button, and then press it again. So it locks the first button, and then you press it again and it lights up, it shows it's still recording. You can actually click pause. So if you go wrong, can pause, move the cursor back, go over the bit you got wrong and hit record, play and start again. What we're doing here is just creating that first movement of the wheels of a steam train. We've got to, it's quite tough. It's hard to get those going. They are very, very slow, but they just need to go round. They just need to start going round. We don't need them to go fast. We just need them to go steadily. Start needing to go steadily before we then build up the consistency of showing up every week. You don't need to be ready to start your podcast. You need to be brave. That is what you need to really get your podcast. And I'm sorry if this has shattered any dreams of yours and validating the fact that you can just leave it another 3 months or leave it to the next year coming up. Because every time you do that, not only do your competitors get a chance to fill the space that you could also fill, but you're leaving those people that you say you want to help, those people that you say you want to help make change happen, you're not there helping them. And that's a shame, because your story, your message, all of your values can help somebody in the world. People are looking for those answers. And you're going to have to get a little bit uncomfortable. You're going to have to sit with that discomfort so that you don't miss the chance to become that podcast host, to share those messages online, and to have that impact and that change on somebody else's life just through someone listening to your podcast. And hey, some of those are then going to trickle their way into your business too. If you want to get started with your podcast and you want to do it in a simple way where it's all mapped out step by step so you don't even have to question it, then you can head to the show notes and you can find the link to my podcast in a day course. You could be a weekend away from having your podcast started. People have done this within a weekend. Some people have taken it and spread it out across the week. But you would have all of the information delivered very simply in bite-sized chunks there to get your podcast started. Plenty of people have used this course to get started. They've got their podcast out there in the world and they've got over that hurdle of perfection, but to just get started and get perfect over time. Until next time, be bold, be seen, and be ready to be heard.